is now being recorded.
All right, thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming on the call. All right. Unfortunately, there are several issues at hand. All right. Now I know we're here for the senior housing. Is that in Woodlawn, George? The senior housing?
There are two, one in Woodlawn and one in Wakefield.
One in Woodlawn and one in Wakefield. The Wakefield is the Grace, am I right?
You're correct. Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, for the most part, we've spoken about that on 2 different occasions, if I can remember, and we're just looking for that letter of support as it lends itself to the Grace situation. And I did submit a letter requesting that. Dr. Burke, did you get it?
The answer is no. So I don't know when you submitted it, but I've been on vacation. So if you submitted it after I left, then no. Being that I'm still on vacation, I haven't received it. But have I received any emails? No. But as you know, I mean, even though, I mean, I've still done some homework. I still have not. I'm glad to see someone other than Pastor Scott here from Grace United Methodist Church, because that's still, to me, that's questions that I still have that no one has been able to answer. I mean, and I think what frustrates me is that I see Mr. Bennett on, I don't have a problem with him. I see Mr. Finch on, and I don't have a problem with him. But what I've constantly said is that I have some questions for church leadership. So if church leadership is on, then we can, before I'm willing to say yes, there's some questions that need to be answered from church leadership, so that have not been, in my opinion, addressed. But everything else, as I say, can go forward. I mean, again, I don't like to micromanage your any committee chairs meetings, but as far as Grace United Methodist Church is concerned, there's some outstanding questions that need to be answered. So that's just my take on that. So a long-winded answer to your question is no, I haven't received anything from you regarding.
All right. Okay, I'm going to make sure that you get the paperwork when you come off of vacation. However, the questions of your concern, they need to come out, because we need to put some closure to this. All right, in its entirety, because it's been a while. This has been since the summer. So
my name is Wendell Paris, if I can speak.
Well, first of all, let me just address that. That's not my fault that, again, let me just say this, because this is still a holiday season and I'm still happy. And so I'm not going to issue any cutting remarks. All I will say is this, the fact that, yes, it does need to be dealt with once and for all. And so, hopefully it will be, dealt with, whether it be this evening, is too much like, whether it be this evening or not. So that's all I'll say on that. So like I said, this is your meeting, Mr. Hall. So I mean, however you want to, however you want to proceed, whatever agenda items you want to cover, that's fine. Either way, even if we vote on them or anybody else, is that I don't want the principals in the room when we're voting on something that they have before us anyway. So I'll just say that as well.
Well, okay. Then it appears that we can't go any.
No, we can go further. We can go further. We can vote. We just don't want them in the room when we're voting. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we can't vote, because I'm looking at, you've got Deacon here. I mean, you don't have Mr. Brown here, but you've got Lucy here. She's on the housing committee. You've got Mr. Brown, who's here. And you've got Ms. Benitez, so I mean, you've got more than enough, and some others. So that's not the case at all. All I'm saying is that, we need to make certain that, we are in discussion. Once they leave, they make their presentation, we can discuss, and we can just give an up or down vote.
Well, the presentation was made previously. So that being said, I will entertain any questions of any magnitude as it lends itself. All right, as it lends itself to this. To Grace Methodist Church. Does anyone on this call have any further questions concerning Grace Methodist Church?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I guess so. I mean, let me ask you this question because I thought that they were last on the agenda. So are they first now?
Well, it's my understanding that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Torres, Woodlawn is not available now. Is that correct?
No, I believe they're here. I saw somebody. Yeah, I saw
in the house.
Randall.
Yeah, Riseborough's here.
Okay. Riseborough's there. Yeah,
Yep.
Maria's there. Randall's there.
Sam is here. Yeah, we're here.
Sam.
Okay. All right.
But just for procedural, I mean, you were talking about Grace Wakefield. This might be helpful to Woodlawn. Why can't the principals be here for a vote? Dr. Burke?
Oh, okay. I was sending you a note because I just sent you a note based on that. Based on what I've always been not only been told, but especially what we did for B&B was that they made their presentations, and then of course we gave them up or down. I think with B&B they kind of knew that we were going to give them a thumbs down. With Wakefield Grace, it's just a matter of really hearing getting some last minute closure. I think for me, so since we're starting with them, I'll just tell you how I'm feeling personally. Again, I have nothing against Mr. Bennett. I have nothing against Mr. Finch. I think I've said that repeatedly. So that's not the issue. The issue that I have is the following. In looking at church leadership, I think I look at, they're not the only church that is pursuing housing. All right. As you well know, there's several churches that are going down that road with housing. And I want to say, is it St. Paul's Episcopal is one of those entities that is looking at housing. And, by far that to me is one of the most outstanding presentations that in my opinion, that has ever come before this housing committee. And so to that end, not only were their I's dotted and their T's crossed, I mean, the developer wasn't even there. I mean, but they came in, and as you know, Mr. Hall and Deacon, you were at that meeting as well. They were extremely thorough. As I said, they came through, they made their presentations. Not only did they say why they needed the housing, but they also said what they were planning on doing as far as the outreach was concerned. Now, as it pertains to Grace United Methodist Church, a couple of things come to mind. So I'm looking at my phone, and I'm looking at what they said. It says, help us build a new church and community center. And so this was supposed to be dedicated in the fall of 2016. And so this is when Dr. Daniel was still a pastor of the church. And so, during their presentation, again, so with Grace, the presentation was made by the developers. So it was made by Mr. Finch and his group, and Mr. Bennett and his group. So, yes, the pastor came on and offered some ancillary words, but quite frankly, I guess the question that I have is, why weren't more members of the church present? Because I think if you remember with the Episcopal Church, I mean, as I said, their presentation was outstanding. And in fact, I'm even asking the pastor, when are you going to start building? And they're still telling me we still need to do X, Y, and Z. So when I'm hearing a developer give most of the presentation versus the church, which is what we saw, that raises suspicion to me, especially since they use the word quote unquote affordable. And as you know, that's a big buzzword with me that sends me up into a tizzy. So, of course, I go by Grace United Methodist Church, and as I said, because I go down White Plains Road quite often, and so I'm looking at their old facility. Yes, they need a new facility, and I'm not against that. Yes, we need senior housing. I'm not against that. So the question that I have is, they would say, okay, so we're going to do a church and community center. But that's kind of sort of not what was presented when they came to us, because they came to us and said, hey, we want to do housing, not a community center. So I'm noticed that the pastor is not on the call. So that's again, for me, that raises why all of a sudden the change. So what I need is questions answered, and the developer can't answer those questions. Only the church leadership can answer those questions. So yes, I'm gonna host fast until somebody comes and answers those doggone questions.
Dr. Burke, here.
May I speak, please?
Wendell,
I mean, this is not my meeting. The chair of the meeting is Mr. Hall. But
listen, Mr. Harris, I'm going to give you the floor. You like to say something?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to indicate that we received the information about the meeting for this evening. The information was disseminated to the pastor and to the members of the development committee of the church. We do have the chair of the trustees and a member of the development committee on the call right now, Brother Braithwaite. However, the pastor, we were told that our presentation would be the third item on the agenda.
That's the way I saw it as well.
So the pastor was preparing to be on the call at that point, and we will have other members of the development committee of the church on this call per your invitation.
Wendell,
Mr. Harris, that sounds like a plan.
The pastor is on the call now. We just
okay.
Yes. Pastor Scott?
Well, hold on. I want to jump because this is already the third hearing. We're wasting an inordinate amount of time. Dr. Burke, what specifically is your question regarding their issue that you want the pastor to answer?
I want to know specifically when we're talking about a community center, what I want to know is we want to do housing. So we want to do housing, fine. So we're talking about senior housing. So the question is the housing going to be for members of the church, or is it going to be available to the community? That's question one. Question two, which programs are you going to be offering? Are you going to be offering, because you said community center. So is it going to be community center for seniors? Is it going to be community center for everybody else? We talk about, again, Mr. Bendit, not he didn't mention this, but somebody on his team mentioned it, and they haven't been on the meeting since. Homeless, right? Because that was that was a big buzzword, and as you know, they had me until then. So what type of people are you bringing into the neighborhood? Not to say that senior housing is not needed, because you've heard me say that it is. That's just a myriad of questions that I have. I know that other people on this call have questions as well. So if we want to get to my issues, those are my issues alone. And so, let's get started. I mean, again, I thought that they were number 3 on the agenda and not number 1. But since we're starting with them, let's move forward.
I would like to hear from Pastor Scott. Is she on audio? I don't hear anything. Pastor Scott, can you hear us? Okay.
She's coming on. No, she's coming on.
No. Okay.
Maybe the developer can answer the question, because I know that we dealt with this actually before, and we dealt with this with other HPD projects. The selection or the application process is not determined by the church. Is that true or not true? That is determined by a lottery, or it's determined by, well, in this situation, there's no community preference. So preference for church members is out the window.
Mr. Torres,
hold on. Yeah, Laurel was on. Go ahead, Mr. Bendit.
Go ahead, Mr. Bendit.
I'm trying to get on by.
Okay.
I
muted her. Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Bendit, go ahead.
That is correct. There is a formal process, by which residents can apply for this type of housing. There's the community is more than welcome to participate in that process, and we hope they will. But it's not preferential treatment for church members by any stretch.
Thank you.
Make one point. There's a preference for people in the zip code surrounding the church. So that would be the per lottery. People in the community per zip code would have a preference.
I don't know that that's true, though. I think we had asked this question before. There is no community preference because you're using federal money, you're using SARA money for this.
Okay, well, that's the way HPD used to run their lottery, but I'll defer.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And we are sort of jumping the gun. Ted Weinstein was going to be on this call as well from HPD, so he can answer some of those questions. But again, you're not the first community group asking for a church or a church asking for housing. What other questions are there, Dr. Burke, that you have?
Again, so let me go in. So my second set of questions as it pertains to community centers. So I'm looking at my phone, and again, because I'm looking at pictures that I took, right? So it says, again, new church and community center. So then it says to serve the community better. And again, I can hold this up, but it doesn't really matter because you probably can't see. And again, I have my light on here. So my question is, and I'm looking at the renderings and the drawings, which of course are not the same as what the Finch group brought to us. So what happened to those?
When you say the renderings you're looking at, I'm sorry, I'm not sure which.
Right. So right now, unless something changed prior to me leaving town, there's a sign outside of your church, right? So there's a church building, and then there's a sign. I don't know if this is where the rectory is, but it's in front of the rectory. But it says Grace, Wakefield Grace United Methodist Church, and obviously it gives your address and your mission statement. And I'm looking at it, says, help us build a new church and community center to serve the community better. And, under the picture, it has dedication fall 2016. And obviously that hasn't happened. And, you go on and it says, we will offer child daycare, after school programs, summer day camp, senior center, I think is what it says, senior center, and some other things I guess I can't make out right now. I'm looking at something about space, I guess renovation space, community youth development programs, food pantry, and much, much more. And it says donations are welcome. So again, it says nothing about housing. You know what I mean? So I think that's
all of those programmatic issues will still be dealt with by the church going forward. Initially, that started over the campaign for this project started over 10 years ago, and the project has morphed into housing as well as community facilities, as well as all the programmatic issues that the church continues to serve. And by looking at the development and going through an RFP process and talking to developers, and the Finch Group was awarded, this became a project that could be manifested by doing affordable housing, senior housing, as well as a sanctuary, as well as housing facilities for the housing of these programs within the building that you're looking at, the rendering that you're looking at.
I think someone with 917 area code was going to chime in as well. 9172 and the last digits of 40.
Yes, Linda Henderson here.
Okay.
If I may answer that question. This project, the picture that you're looking at is something that we started in 2012. And after we were introduced to the New York Land Opportunity, the LIST program, that was abandoned. And that's why what you're looking at there is not that rendering was abandoned. So the new thing that you're looking at, the drawings from the Finch group is completely different, because that thing was just the church only and the community center. But since then, it has turned into where we are trying to do housing. That thing was not taken down, but that was back in 2012.
My name is Paula. I would just like to add to that.
Okay, I can barely hear you. Who is that?
My name is Paula. I'm a part of the church. I'm the
Okay.
secretary of the board of trustees. And the person who was talking to you was the president of the board of trustees.
Okay.
All the other items that with the programs that you said are there, we're currently, well, let me rephrase that. We were currently doing that before the pandemic. So we had a summer camp, we had after school, we had food pantry. So, we were doing that before. Even today, I think we did some food pantry. So, we're doing it. This is not something that we're saying that we want to do. This is something that we were doing. I mean, every year we have had a summer camp, and we have not only had a summer camp, we have had and we have people in the community that are coming. We're not only focusing on the church, we're focusing on the community.
Okay, listen, I just want to I want to really make this brief.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that we were going to have 73 units of housing, senior housing, of
Right.
which 72 was available because you're going to have a live-in super. All right. That being said, there was supposed to be 6 parking spaces. All right. Now, if anything has changed, I'd like to know, because that was the essence of my report as it lent itself to this particular project. All right. Also, and there were going to be jobs for the community. No less than 100 jobs, if I remember correctly. And if I remember, Pastor Scott was also very vehemently going to see to it that those jobs were given to folks within the Community Board 12 community. Now, that was an essence of what I was educated on previously. If anything has changed, could someone please step up and make me aware of this?
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
It's still all the
All
same.
right. Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Hall, if
Very
I
well.
may, Mr. Hall, if I may, everything you just said is correct. 73 units. I think there's 7 parking spaces. There's also a church and there's also a community space in which the church will carry out the community functions it does today. But because the space is larger and newer, they're going to carry out additional community functions in feeding people, in after-school activities, tutoring, in summer camps, in helping the elderly who are going to live in the property full-time. There's an array of different functions going on in the space. We were able to do that because when you add the housing component, quite candidly, you have more money available to build a better product. And that is what we are doing.
Okay.
The church will
Thank
own
you.
it, and the church is the majority owner going forward, and they will continue their services.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
And
very much.
we will also be supporting all of the business programs of minority business, the small business, and the having women and so on in the community. We have already been getting calls from the community, and we are already documenting those calls from people in the community who are looking for work, vendors and specialty contractors.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I believe that was the core of circumstances. All right. If there's anyone else who has any questions of major concern, could they please step forward? Anyone on the board?
Sydney had her hand up.
Cindy?
Sydney Blair.
Okay, Ms. Blair?
Never mind. I'm okay. I have no questions at this time.
Okay. All right. Once again, and this is the third take on this, so I in the essence of time, I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to sum this up. All right. The report remains the same. All right. I will bring this to the board. All right. As we have it, based on what I was educated on, and we will see to it. I do not want to compare this project to any other project. I want to take this project and base it on the needs of the community and the best interest of this word community. all right? Which is first and foremost. That's the idea. So, gentlemen, if there are not any other
Wait a
questions,
minute, you got to call. If we're going to vote for it in front of them, you got to call. Somebody's got to make a motion.
well, the thing is, if you want this happen, how many members do we have on this call as we speak? George Torres, do you have an idea?
Who your committee members are? No, I don't know who your committee members are.
No. Do you know how many members we have on this call?
Well, no, but it's your committee members. It's your committee. It doesn't matter how many board members you've got. It's how many members of your committee that are the ones who are voting on it.
Yeah, I understand that. The problem is, I have new committee members who are not even on this call. All right.
Do you have a list, Michael?
I do. Hang on for a second because I've got to go into my. So I'm gonna have to go into my thing. So I will do that. I know for a fact, off of my memory, I know Miss Benitez. I think I know she was a former member. I think I put somebody else on. I know for a fact Nicole Weir is the vice chair of the committee. I know Lucille is on this committee. I want to say I know Deacon is on the committee. Victor Brown is on the committee, but of course I don't see where he's here. I don't remember if I added. I see some new board members here. I don't know if I added them or not to that or land use because again I don't have it in front of me. I'm looking at Jerome and I'm looking at Keisha Martin. I don't think I added you guys to this committee, have I? I don't think so. Did I?
No, sir. I'm not added to the housing committee.
I didn't think so. Okay, so
and I'm not either.
So
Then
right,
has a hand raised.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sydney. Sydney, you said something?
I was saying that I was added to this committee.
Yeah, you were. That's right. You were added, right? So Sydney was added to this. Thank you, Sydney. So I mean, and that's just coming off of my memory. So I think that's everybody. Lucy's here, Sydney's here, Deacon is here. Outside of Victor Brown is your only committee member that's not here.
5, 6.
And
So
Ms.
6 board
Benitez can
members.
serve. I think I know because I know what I did because Ms. Benitez is on so many committees. I made a move, so I need to get that to everybody. But you know, she could serve for Mr. Brown in this particular case. And of course, obviously, as I have a vote as chair of the board. So you're ready to call for the vote, but you need a motion.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion so that we can vote to this particular project?
I call the motion.
Who's that?
Nicole.
Who's that?
Okay.
Nicole Webb. Okay. A second is a second needed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is someone second? Will someone second the motion?
I second the motion, Jerome Brown.
Okay.
All right, Jerome Brown second.
But Jerome is not on your committee.
Yeah.
You need a second from your committee.
I'll second it, okay?
Who's that? Judith
That's
Benitez?
Judith.
Judith Benitez will second it.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
All right.
All right. Any opposed? Okay. All right. George, do you have the list?
Yeah, I wrote it down. So just to be clear, Nicole is she made a motion. Judith seconded, and it passed, I guess, unanimously because I didn't hear any nays.
Well, yeah. I mean, I only heard one person, so I think you probably need to call a voice vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Deacon Brown, how do you vote?
Well, it's in the chat. He said he votes aye.
Oh, okay. All right. Is Victor on? I didn't see him.
Ms. Benitez is serving for him in this case, but he's not.
All right.
But he is a member of the committee.
Okay.
He's absent without official leave.
Okay. Ms. Blair, do you support this? I can't hear you.
We're voting. Sorry, I want to make sure that we're just voting to bring a motion to vote, right?
Yeah, I guess you're voting to get, I guess you're voting a letter of support and it has to go to the full
Voting?
board for a vote.
Yes, you're voting for a letter of support.
Yeah.
I will
So,
waive
yeah, so,
my,
right.
To
So
get
here's
out of
what we're
my
doing,
I
Sydney.
will waive
So,
my right to vote tonight.
right. So, Sydney, what we're
You're gonna
doing is, I
abstain.
don't know if you got a project, Sydney. So if you didn't, just send me a note and I will get it to you. But what you're voting on right now is to
Right.
say
I don't
that
have any supporting information, so I want to waive my right to
you want
vote
to,
right
okay, that's
now.
fine. So you abstain. You abstaining, Sydney?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Abstain, not present. Judith is Judith, what are you?
Aye.
Aye. Nicole?
Aye.
Lucille? Lucille Martin?
Lucy, we can't hear you.
I'm unmuted. No?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh,
1,
sorry.
2, 3. So, and Deacon is an I, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses, 1 abstention, and 1 not present. So the yeses take it. Oh, and Robert, I'm sorry. How do you vote, Robert?
Oh, I vote aye.
All right. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1 not present, and 1 abstention. So 5 to 0, 1.
Okay. Well, the ayes have it. All right. So we'll bring this to the board for a letter of
Actually,
support.
make that 2 abstentions, George, because as chair, I get a vote too. I'm going to actually chime in on this. I'm going to abstain as well. I'm really, it's just something about, again, as I said, I have nothing against the church. I have nothing against the Finch group. It's just something about this just doesn't seem right to me. I'm going to abstain because I don't want to seem like I'm a Grinch this time of year. But I'm going to, Sydney, I'm going to get you the project, even though a committee has decided to give a letter of support. It's just something that I just don't like. But it's passed, so we will bring it to the full. We'll talk about it at executive committee meeting on the 19th, and then go forward from there.
All right. So the new vote is 5-0-2.
Correct.
All right.
Motion passes.
Mr. Hall, Mr. Torres, and Mr. Burke, and everyone else, thank you very much. We are always here to provide information, no matter what, as we go down this path together. Thank you.
Well, I think, Mr. Finch, I think the problem that I have, I'm gonna be honest with you, the problem that I've had is I've had more information from you than I've had. And I know what the chair of the housing committee has said, but look, I mean, to me, if, you know, again, and you're coming on as a developer, but to me, if you want to carry out a project, I'm going to do most of the presenting, right? So, I mean, I have my degree, and most people here that have degrees have their degree on their work, not on what someone else did, right? So my thing is this, you know, I would know what the hell I'm talking about if I want to bring something to the board and not have the people who have contracted to do most of the presentation. That's why I have a problem. But then again, I'm just one person. So that's why, as I said, Mr. Finch, it was nothing against you or Mr. Bender or anybody from your team. So that's just where I stand.
Dr. Burke,
Okay,
I don't mean to speak for the
can I
past.
say something? Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want. I mean, again, this is not my meeting. I'm just
No,
telling you how.
Okay,
First of all, who's talking?
let me. My name is Henderson Bradford. I'm the president. Bradford.
Okay, Mr. Broderick, go ahead.
I'm the president of the board of trustees.
Oh, yeah.
This project is something that we tried to start since 2012. Our former pastor, Reverend Keon Daniel, who left the church on June of last year, was the spearhead of this project. And our new pastor, Sister Laura, she just came in to Redfield Grace on the August of this year. August of last year. So she is not really up to speed with the foundation and everything that we had done before. We went through 2 years of going to programs with the New York Land Opportunity, which is LIST. We went through programs with the HPD, and we got to the point that we hired the Fitch Group to do the project for us. So it's not like we don't know what's going on. We have a committee that worked on this from the beginning in 2012 up to this present moment.
Okay, Mr.
So
Brathwaite.
This is nothing fishy.
Okay, Mr. Brathwaite, I fully understand. I understand what you're saying. All right, and I understand. And like I said, we have all of the facts. All right, we're going to go forward. And the simple fact that your new pastor, Ms. Scott, did indicate to us that she was going to personally see to it that a lot of these jobs was coming to the community, that was sufficient enough for someone who entered into the equation at such a late time. So I applaud what you've pieced together in the best interest of this entire project. So I just want to thank all the participants, Mr. Bendet, Mr. Finch, and all the individuals. And at this time, we're going to end this hearing so we can move on to the next. Okay? And I want to thank you for being on the call.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Healthy year to everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Mr. Torres, who's next?
Sorry, we can do Woodlawn.
Woodlawn. Okay. Roseboro, is that correct?
Riseboro.
Riseboro. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem at all. Maria, you want to jump in?
Sure. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm glad for this opportunity to come back to the board. And now that our project is finally developed, do this presentation to bring you all up to speed on the development or the final stages of the development, and also to engage the community board and bring you information on the process for the marketing. I'm not the one that's going to do the presentation. And by the way, I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. I am so sorry. My name is Maria Vieira. I'm VP of Community Affairs at Riseboro Community Partnership. And we have Randall Teray, who has come to community board in the past, and he's community engagement manager. Sam Salveson is the project manager or development manager for this particular development, and he's the person who is going to conduct the presentation. And Randall will, jump in as necessary, and I'm here for support for the team. So with that, and we are talking about an 80-unit development of senior housing, which will be called, is it Woodlawn Senior Living?
Woodlawn Senior Living, that's it.
Yeah. And with that, thank you all very much. And Sam, I'm giving up the soapbox.
Great. Everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sam.
Thank goodness. I've had trouble with WebEx in the past. Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Salveson. I'm a project manager with Riseboro Community Partnership. Thanks for having me on tonight, and I'll try to get going with this presentation. I don't know what the best method is, if I should share my screen or Mr. Torres, I had sent it to you. I don't know if that works best, if you just want to set it up.
You can try and share it, or I can do hold on. PowerPoint share.
Okay, I'm not the greatest at
All right. Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
We can see it.
Okay.
Great. So I guess you can go to the next slide. It's just the title. Great. So It's basically two parcels. It's called Woodlawn Senior Living. It's sort of ensconced in between Van Cortlandt Park and the cemetery on East 233rd Street. The parcel to your left is going to be parking, and the parcel to your right is currently under construction for 80 units of senior living. Next slide. So just a brief overview. First and foremost, we're building this to a passive house design, which essentially means it has a really tight building envelope that maximizes efficiency and minimizes energy usage. It also means better air quality for tenants and lower utility bills through its design. And it's 80 units of affordable senior housing for folks aged 62 and above. If you're familiar with SARA, HPD's program, this is through SARA and financed as well with 9% LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits. So these are going to be all Section 8 subsidies for all of the units except for the supers unit. And it's broken down mostly by 59 studio units and 21 bedrooms, so about a 75-25% split. And there is a 30% set aside for formerly homeless seniors. The parking lot that I alluded to is going to have 11 spaces, 3 of which will be for electric vehicles. They'll have electric vehicle charging stations, 2 community rooms, 2 elevators, a laundry room, a package room, and bike storage are some of the amenities that are provided as well. Next slide, please. So, as a senior building with formerly homeless seniors, there is going to be a supportive services component. So Riseboro, one of its tenants is Riseboro Seniors, and we have a history of providing services to seniors, both in the properties that we own and manage and through our Meals on Wheels program, which will be accessible to the site. So essentially, we'll have a tenant service coordinator working to provide and connect tenants with supportive services. Some of the higher touch services, especially for the formerly homeless folks, could be something like case management or crisis intervention, supportive counseling, and any sort of referral services that we can provide. And then also for tenants writ large, there's a lot of recreation and educational programming. Hopefully, post-COVID, we'll be able to really roll those out. But traditionally, Riseboro tends to do stuff like, arts instruction, computer literacy, even yoga and Roomba class or sort of workout classes, and even ESOL courses as well. Next slide, please. Cut and paste from the architect's drawings what standard units would look like. These aren't, cookie cutter for each one, but essentially the studios are going to range between 350 to 400 square feet. There are going to be some set asides for folks with mobility and vision and hearing impairment. Next slide. And for the 1 bedrooms as well, they're a little bigger at about 500 to 550 square feet. And also similar set asides, 5 for mobility impaired and 1 for vision and hearing impairment. Next slide, please. So basically what we predicted this model to be, and the income maximums and the rents are going to be set by the Section 8 provider. So I want to really put a caveat on this that these are not set in stone, but sort of where rents are going to come in, just for everyone's edification here. Tenants will not pay more than 30% of their income, and these are reserved for 50% area median income. So folks making in the range of $30,000 to $40,000 a year, roughly speaking. Next slide, please. Also tentative, but just to sort of give everyone an idea of where we are in this process. We're working closely with HPD right now to kick off the housing lottery. So this will be on HPD's Housing Connect around January 20th is when the lottery will open. That date is not set in stone, so it's still tentative, but that's what we're shooting for. One of the great things about this project is that it's it's actually ahead of schedule by a couple of months now. The general contractor's been doing a really great job. So we will be looking to complete construction by the 15th of April, give or take, approvals, and looking at about an occupancy late May, maybe early June. Yeah, I tried to make this a quick song and dance and, open the floor for any questions that folks may have, but that's essentially the 411 on Woodlawn Senior Living, and thank you again for having me on.
Okay.
George, this is Randall for a second. Could you go back to that last slide?
Sure.
Yeah, I think we'll keep this one up while everybody asks their questions. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted you, Robert. Robert, you have to unmute yourself. If you're calling from the phone, I think it's *6 or *9, one of those two.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Is there any parking? I know you only have 80 units, and I know it's 62 and above, but do you have any parking spaces?
Yeah, we have 11 units. 11 parking spaces, and that's what he was discussing. That 3 of which are now available for electric vehicles. So if an electric vehicle parks there, we have an electrical vehicle outlet at that parking space. But we have 11 parking spaces, not adjacent, but one lot over from the building itself.
Okay. Other than that, I just want to know, have you been in touch with the Woodlawn Taxpayers Association?
We have not spoken to them. They have my number. Ken has my number, and I have not heard from Ken. We have not heard from any of the neighbors.
They were invited to tonight's meeting.
Yeah, and we are open to working with them. One of the things I wanted to say, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up this slide, is that I have spoken to George, and what we are open to doing is in order to ensure that the community. Now, be clear, this is a SARA project, and just because it's a SARA project, there is no community preference. But we are open to working with the community. And George has graciously offered the community board office to have folks come in, and now the only way you can sign up for the lottery is through the computer. So they would have to come into, and if they don't have a computer, they can come in and use the computer. And if need be, we can have someone there to help them on a certain day. So we want to make sure that as many people from the Woodlawn and the surrounding communities, Community Board 12 community, signs up for this lottery, because as much as it is a lottery, the more people who sign up from the community, the opportunities then definitely increase. So we want to make sure people sign up from the Woodlawn and the Community Board 12 community, the Wakefield community.
Okay. All right, that's very gracious of you. Any other questions from board members?
Randall, I did have a question. The applications that you're taking in, I just speak to it. Are you guys going to input that into the computer, and then if they get selected?
No, we're not allowed to. No, we're not allowed to.
Okay.
So what we would have to do, George, and we can talk about the logistics. We would have to make sure that there is a computer set up there or some laptop set up there, and then people would come in and we would, could talk them through that process. But we're not allowed to at all to put any input in, add anything into the computer. The individuals have to do it themselves.
So,
actually,
board member.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Maria.
In the past, we have had people that, because of access or impairment issues, we have had case managers or tenant liaisons sit down with a computer and fill in the information as the potential tenant is sitting there providing information. So it's assistance filling out the actual forms necessary. So that's something that we can do.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Maria, because I think that's a excellent correction. If they're impaired or some way unable to fill it out, maybe visually impaired or some other ways impaired, we can definitely help them. But otherwise, in order to make sure that there's a certain level of fairness, we have to be careful about how we do with the lottery, because we don't have any choice in that lottery. So I just want to be clear that we are, working with the City of New York, the HPD, on the lottery process, but they will fill it out.
Impairments, and may I add also computer literacy challenges. I mean, not everyone knows how to navigate a computer, so we're here to help.
Well, that's a very good point, and I see you're going to have computer literacy anyway to educate the folks who are going to live there, should they be selected. So that's good all the way around. Any other questions from the board members? Deacon Brown, anyone?
I can't see the chat, by the way. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, if there aren't any more questions, all right.
Well, Robert, hold on. I just want to see the. All right. Keisha. Oh, no, wait. You didn't, Keisha Martin Lago, you didn't, the question you have is for the previous project or this project?
The previous project.
Okay, no problem. We'll get you that info. All right. There's nothing else in the chat. Go ahead, Robert. Do what you got to do.
Hold on. Victor Brown, George.
Oh, go ahead, Victor.
Deacon. No, it's Deacon Brown.
Oh, Deacon Brown. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm very concerned about this project. And I'd like to know the Bronx, how would the Bronx benefit from this? The workers, are they going to bring out of town workers? We have skilled people in the Bronx here.
Well, the project is almost complete, Deacon Brown. The project is almost complete. We've, but to let you know that there were people that were hired from the community, and so that there was a consistent community presence in our workforce at the Woodlawn project. But now the project is almost complete, so it's not a project that's coming up; it's a project that's in completion.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Any other questions? All right.
Well, that being, go ahead. That being said, I just wanted to know that will you be able to provide a percentage of the workers that work within the community on this project?
We can get that for you. Yeah, we can definitely get that for you. Yes, that's part of we have to provide that to New York City every quarter, I believe. So
yeah, I believe so. Okay, I'd like to see that. All right, but that's just for verification purposes only. So I really want to applaud you for having the community step up and be a part of this particular project. All right, on behalf of Riseboro, it's very gracious of you. All right. So, any other concerns, questions,
Let me
comments?
jump in. Let me ask a question. Thank you, Mr. Hall. So, Riseboro is the community partner, correct?
Riseboro is the name of our organization, Community Partnership. Riseboro Community Partnership is the organization's name.
Okay. So you got, because I guess, so there's obviously somebody else's developer, but you guys are the ones outside of who's in your building. Are you guys going to be offering, so the supported services only for your residents, correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Ms. Vieira and all the other gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen from Riseboro, I want to thank you for your presentation. What is it that we can do to assist you other than your application process? Is there anything else?
I guess spreading the word, letting folks know, disseminating information that this lottery is happening and that people should apply. The more people in the community apply, as Randall said, the more it raises the opportunities for filling in vacancies from folks that live within Community District 12. So that's extremely important. If you reach into your networks and let folks know that it's on the Housing Connect website and they should apply. And if anyone needs help, they can reach out. Is it to George to figure out a schedule of when they can come to the board office, to the district office for assistance?
Well, whenever you guys are ready to do it, and whatever marketing, do you guys do the marketing, or is HPD responsible for it?
That's a question for the development folks.
We're working with HPD on the marketing, so they handle the they handle the Housing Connect side, but we're working in lockstep with them. I apologize, we don't have a marketing representative with us on the team to give a more nuanced response to that.
But you're gonna
HPD conducts the lottery. We don't conduct it.
No, I understand that, but what we're familiar with and what we send out to the community is the Housing Connect flyer that has the listing of apartments with the rent rolls on them. So when that's prepared, and whatever day you determine you want to come to the community board, we'll set that up.
Let me ask one follow-up question, if I may. You guys presented blueprints or plans to the or schematics to the rooms, which is fantastic. My question is, since the project is almost completed, in order to generate excitement, I think what you would help is if you had pictures of a completed room or two, or a completed series of rooms. Do you have that available for our district manager or anybody in the community that is seeking to live in your building? Outside of the, as I said, outside of the room plans or the schematics that you have already displayed tonight.
I don't have one on me, but I can get one to you. I can work with our construction manager, and we can. I'm fairly certain we have a room that's completed by now, as we're finishing up, and I can make sure that I can circulate that to you all. And I'm fairly certain that's also going to go on Housing Connect as well. I just had the renderings because those were the easiest to put up.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's understandable because I think that's what especially if you want excitement about your building, that would help. Okay. Right.
I just want to mention a bit of irony here. If for those of you who have been on the board for a very long time, especially for those of you who have not been on the board for a long time, this is a pretty good lesson in irony because we did not vote for this project. This is another project that the Woodlawn community was vehemently against. Although Riseboro did answer a majority of their questions, they were also concerned that their community people would not be allowed to live in this because they made way too much rent. And the irony here, and I wish Ken was on the call because I did say this to his face when we spoke. He claimed nobody from Woodlawn would want to live here. He now wants a separate application intake center someplace in Woodlawn so that his residents can get preferential treatment, which is not going to happen. This is why Randall and I had the conversation. It is ironic to me because everybody says that they don't want or that they don't need housing. This is a site, again, that did not get support from the community board or the elected officials, did not get a discretionary dime from the city councilman. Yet now there's a clamoring for this site, and I'm curious to see how many people apply for it on Housing Connect. And ironically enough, we just had the conversation about Wakefield Grace. This is the same program. We're not going to determine who gets to live here. It's the same group of people. They're taking 30% homeless, just like this group is taking 30% homeless. That is just the fact of how SARA funding works. The only problem is, or the only concern would be, what problem do we have with elderly, formerly homeless people? Are they rabble rousers? They're not. So, and again, there is no community preference on this project, like there's no community preference on the Wakefield Grace project either. So again, it's a bit of irony. Maybe this was a better presentation, but it's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
May I,
Let me
if I
comment- let
may,
me comment.
George?
Hang
Go
on,
ahead,
Maria.
Maria.
Let me comment on that. So, you're right. As you've always heard me say, and I'll say it again, piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance, and piss poor performance promotes something else. But I won't say that here. So it's all about presentation and preparation. So I had just joined the board. You're right, George, when this project came about, and you're absolutely right in that it didn't get community support at all. I think what you have to realize is that no, there's nothing wrong with seniors, but again, you've also heard me say excuses are tools of the incompetent as well. And so when we sit here and make excuses for individuals who do not come to us prepared, like what we heard tonight, then of course that presents a problem. So with this particular project, I mean, obviously, like I said, it's near completion, and that's fine. You're absolutely right. But it's about having your ducks in a row. It's about being properly prepared, right? And so, I do not expect, Ms. Blair or Ms. Martin, Keisha Martin, that is, or Mr. Brown, being that they just got on the board, right? But what we're trying to do is show them what we need. And that's why I'm glad that you set up that meeting with Ted. And I was hoping that he would be on the call, because the one thing, if you remember that meeting that they had with me and city planning, was that we would show our not only housing committee, but board members how they go about selecting their funding and for projects such as this and such as Grace and such as the others. So I think that, we need to make that happen. If not this month, definitely next month or within the next, no later than March, so that our board can see exactly how these projects come to us, so that we would be better informed. So I agree with you, George, as far as that. And so hopefully you, myself, and Ted can make that happen, where we can bring him in, because he, as you know, was willing to come to our board and show us how to do that. So other than that, I won't disagree with a word that you said, other than the fact as piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance. And I'll leave it at that.
We've done this many years for a long time, Mr. Torres, so I get it. You can bring Mr. Weinstein in, all right? But that's it, prepared or not. So, anything else? Anything else? Well, I do have an issue that has arisen throughout the New York City Housing Authority. And I've said this before, although I was cut off for whatever reason whatsoever. But on the New York City Housing Authority front, all right, they are privatizing a lot of developments, of which Edenwall has been one. Okay, there's a full court press going on as we speak, and it's to get our elected officials to put a halt to this. This idea they have called Blueprint for Change, because this idea would give the New York City housing residents an opportunity to go from Section 9 down to Section 8 only for economic gain. And because of that, along with the fact that we're going through this pandemic, it's been improbable to educate the residents on this process. But yet and still, the chairman of the New York City Housing Authority took it upon himself to go to Albany, to go to DC, to try to get a portfolio of funding. And it's being spearheaded by the NYCHA executives, and it's being fought by the residents. But as we speak, what they are doing is they are privatizing developments wholesale. So that being said, there's a full court press to get all the assistance necessary. And there are some resident association TA presidents that have gotten together. They're called Residents Preserve Public Housing. And they've gone to, at this point, Community Board 9, and also another community board in Manhattan to get a letter of support. This letter of support is to temporarily halt this blueprint for change idea, which is being created by the chairman of the New York City Housing Authority. Now he's being paid $500,000 a year to parade around the country and privatize housing developments. So this is what's going on as we speak.
Could you, if possible, for people who don't understand what privatizing NYCHA would be, could you explain to them how that process works and what would happen to the residents moving forward?
Well, what they say, what NYCHA does, NYCHA preserves the land. They always will own the land, but they get these 99-year leases up to these non-for-profits. And the non-for-profits are going to run the developments. All right. Now, they say that 30% of your rent will be given for, will be indoctrinated for your rent. However, non-for-profits have board of directors, and board of directors do what's in the best interest of their particular board. And if things change, there's no way, shape, or form that residents have protection rights against any increase of rents. So although it's being stated that they would take the 30% and put it across the board, it is not a foregone conclusion and is not etched in stone. And because of that, it becomes somewhat problematic. Under Section 9, the residents of New York City Housing Authority have a right to refuse any and all opportunities presented, all right, by any organization. But should they decline themselves and go into Section 8, they lose those rights. So this has been the issue at hand. And what makes it quite problematic is to get the true understanding from the residents directly. That's been problematic because TA presidents, as we speak, cannot have meetings. There's a moratorium on meetings. So that's the problem. Okay. So unfortunately, Edenwall, which is the second largest housing development in the city of New York, has been privatized, or at least they're in the discussions. It'll be like about 2 years before it actually happens. All right. But like I said, there are a lot of intricacies involved in this. I probably are going to have the committee come and speak to the board members, to the housing committee, as it lends itself to this situation, because they will probably try to pursue a letter of support. There will be a town hall meeting January 27th with the Senate as well as the Assembly in order to further express the discontent of NYCHA residents as it lends itself to this event. So it's a full court press and time is of the essence. But yet and still, that's what's going on. All right, just to give you an idea. All right.
What's the difference between this and what the hell we've been voting on, right? So we just had a developer come in essence with the same doggone thing, right? We just had B&B, which I'm very pissed off about that. We're talking about elected officials. There are some people on here that have seen letters where I sent to elected officials, but pretty much we were ignored, right? So my question to you is this, Mr. Hall, what's the difference if these developers are coming in privatizing NYCHA versus what the hell they're building with HPD? I mean, pretty much the way I see it, it's the same damn thing. So they're claiming that, they're providing housing, everything is going to be better, supposedly, at least that's the baloney that they've given us with these developers. So the way I see the developers coming in with NYCHA, and from some of the stuff that I've seen on television from NYCHA, hell, that may be a good thing. So explain to me why what you're proposing is not a good thing for NYCHA, but it's great for when developers come in.
The thing is this: number one, NYCHA has its own subtitle. All right, and NYCHA, the reason NYCHA is in the state that they're in is not because of the residents. The residents still deserve the adequate protection And I would never sit down and compare what is going on to Housing Connect and that with the New York City Housing Authority, okay? Not everyone can live in a home. So developers are like sharks, and you need to understand that. And the fact is, it's a great difference.
Robert,
All right?
what do you, hold on, Robert, because I think you've said a lot of stuff and it's very confusing for a lot of people. Are you talking about RAD? Hold, are you talking about RAD?
Yeah, RAD and PAC are the privatization tools that are being used. Yes.
So why don't you explain what RAD is to the board members so that they understand what it is?
RAD, all right, is an advisory board. It's a board that privatizes the housing developments so that non-for-profits could take them on. All right.
That's not why it was created, Robert.
Okay, George, let me please explain, because right now I don't see the difference between what he's talking about and what these developers are coming in. Right now it's the same thing. So please explain the difference, if there is one.
RAD is a Obama era program to help NYCHA use the Section 8 voucher as leverage to secure more funding to fix their crumbling infrastructure. I forget what the number is. I don't know if you're still around, Ursula, or maybe Dr. Burke, you remember from our budget consultation meetings with NYCHA. They have, is it a $40 billion deficit in terms of
something like that? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous number. So they couldn't get traditional financing because NYCHA exists with three government. It exists because of the feds, the state, and the city government. That's why their chairperson is a chairperson and not a commissioner. They're not governed by the same rules as other city agencies. But in short, RAD is just I don't want to say it's a scheme because it's not a scheme, but it is a financing scheme so that they can get it. Now, Robert, you can speak to this because you know Sandra Gross better than I do, but Sandra Gross is the NYCHA tenant president for the Baychester houses. And if you've seen the Baychester houses, they just underwent RAD. Are you saying that Sandra and her people are not supportive of the RAD development?
No, I'm not saying they're not supportive. I'm not saying they're not supportive at all. All right. It's just that all the developments that are going under, all right, they are losing their power. And the fact of the matter is they have no idea what is going to happen with them down the line as far as their rents are concerned. All right, when in fact, that was not the issue when they were part of New York City Housing Authority.
But you didn't have that control under the New York City Housing Authority either.
Yes, you do. You do. You have 30% of your income. That's the formula that exists. And there's no guarantee with regards to that.
So instead of, we can get somebody, if you're very passionate about this, Robert, we can get somebody from NYCHA to come and speak about this. And we can also get Sandra Gross, who's there. And Walter McNeil is no longer a board member, but he is still the tenant president of, is Walter against RAD for Edenwald?
Walter will be available, all right? I speak to Walter almost every day. All right.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is he against it? Is his tenants against Edenwald?
His tenants are being educated on what's going on. They're in the dark. And the reason they're in the dark is because Walter can't talk to them. That's the problem. Okay. There's a communications gap because of the pandemic. So that's become another problem as we speak. All right.
Okay.
So, I still don't get it, George. Why is this a bad thing? That question still has not been answered. Why is this a bad thing versus what these developers are doing? The way I see it, if the infrastructure is crumbling, and it is, right, why can't you have somebody come in there if they're going to offer an investment? What the hell are we being asked to do?
No, I don't listen. I guess there is controversy surrounding RAD. And I guess the controversy is that, Robert's saying that it's privatization. It's not privatization because NYCHA still retains the property.
Right.
And they can always break the lease if they want. 99-year leases and those covenants can be broken if they don't adhere to whatever parameters are set and when they write that contract.
Right.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what the controversy is. Like I said, this was a way because the federal government was not going to honor their commitment to fund their portion of housing. So this was, I think, Sean Donovan, who's now running for mayor, was then the housing secretary of housing or whatever it was, and he came up. Yeah, they came up with this plan. And like I said, Baychester, which is right next to Edenwald, has already, I want to say maybe 90% of their buildings are already done. I mean, they look rather nice. They did the grounds. And the thing is, they took the management away from NYCHA. And honestly, maybe that's not a bad thing, Robert. I mean, have you been to Baychester? Because it looks nice. They actually have grass now. Like, before,
I don't see where there's a problem. I don't see it.
But to be fair, there's always problems. So again, we can have somebody. I mean, Robert, if you're passionate about it, I can reach out to NYCHA and have the general manager come and speak about RAD. I mean, RAD is inherently going to be problematic because you're talking about billions of dollars and you're leveraging the Section 8. Which is basically people's rent rolls. I mean, that's what they're using to pay their rent. So, but you're using that financing. So theoretically, if it's not funded or if it's not paid for, somebody's going to have to pay that bill. And I guess that's where the controversy comes in at the end.
But not only that, the vouchers, there are different types of vouchers. You have project-based vouchers, you have choice vouchers. These vouchers differentiate. Some of them are different than others, and that's become somewhat problematic. And NYCHA has about 5 different types of vouchers that they're playing with as far as these residents are concerned. So that's why I said there's a lot of sophisticated intricacies as it lends itself to this situation, but it's not clear cut.
All right.
All right.
Robert, we'll speak to you. Yeah, we'll speak to you. We'll get all the questions that you have in regards to this, and we'll ask for NYCHA to present somebody because that's actually very heavy stuff. I mean, you can spend a couple of hours on that.
Yeah, no problem. All right.
Hello, hi. I just want to have a question in reference to this problem that we're talking about. Isn't it the bottom line that eventually the residents of these buildings would eventually have to pay a higher rental rate?
That's the fear, yes.
Yeah, something has to happen. Yeah.
So look, Judith, you live in a co-op. I live in co-op.
Mm-hmm.
If you borrow money, if you leverage money against anything like a loan, you take a loan out.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to pay it back.
Yeah.
So 30 years from now, that loan is going to come due, and there may be a balloon payment at the end of it, and maybe somebody can explain that. I think that's the fear. That's what happens with a lot of housing. I mean, it's not just NYCHA that's undergoing this. Like I said, I live in Co-op City. We've had to refinance our mortgage several times. Mm-hmm. And as a result, your rent goes up. I am curious, Robert, because rents are governed by the Rent Guidelines Board. NYCHA is subject to that. So the landlord can't all of a sudden impose a 5 or a 10% increase in 1 year if the Rent Guidelines Board is only advising a 1 or 2%, or for the past couple of years, it's been 0%.
Yeah, it would be a gradual influx that one would fear. It would not be one lump sum. And there are some new retrofitting ideas that are in the works on a national level. All right, they got something they call the Green New Deal, where they retrofit housing. All right, and these are all not just New York City Housing Authority, but these are ideas that have come to fruition. And you know, the AOC, these folks are looking into things of that nature. You know, also, I'm going to mention Paris. I'm going to mention South Boston. All right. These are folks that came up with ideas and plans that have really turned developments around. So a lot of this is being explored. All right. But it is significantly different than a developer, all right, taking people from an HPD roster. It's different. That's all.
Hey, George,
Yeah.
we can double check that, but last time I spoke to them, they were not subject to the same rent increase laws.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but we have to check that.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I remember when they were raising the rent in Eatonwall, I called and the lady told me they weren't.
So again, it depends on, you know, Robert spoke to different vouchers for rental. I only know that there are two. There's Section 8, and then there's project-based Section 8. And they're handled by two different agencies. Section 8 is NYCHA, project-based Section 8, I think, is HPD.
Right.
But
you have the seat vouchers too.
Exactly. You have the HRA vouchers, you have DRE, you have SCREE. These are all for our board members. SCREE is a senior rental increase exemption, and DRE is for people who have disabilities.
And then you have the Phelps program.
That's right. So there are there's a lot of different things out there. So like, that's why I said this can be heavy. I mean, you have to have a basic primer of everything that's out there. And then you have to have the basic understanding of how does NYCHA move forward in dealing with moldy bathrooms, leaky roofs, and all that other stuff? How do they attack that problem? And again, we do budget consultations every year, which, you know, we're trying to get the board to get more involved in. These are the types of questions that we can be asking NYCHA representatives during our June meetings. I mean, we can start planning now, because, you know, this is a great segue into the stuff that we should be doing and holding agencies accountable. You know, Robert seems to have an issue with the RAD program. You know, what are the benefits and what are the minuses for these programs? And, you know, they should give it all to us.
Oh, we can have this conversation again. All right.
Yeah.
And invite the powers that be so that we can, you know, get a better understanding. All right. Because it's in the best interest. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Nothing else.
John, you asked the question, what's the website to apply for what? Housing Connect?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
No
Thank you,
problem.
George.
All right. All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Is that it, George?
That's it in the chat.
That's it.
That's
Nothing
it.
else?
Nothing else. Look at that. We did this in less than an hour. Congratulations.
It wasn't as easy as you think it was.
All right.
Don't look at it that way.
All right. Close us out.
Okay.
Take us home.
All right. All right. Listen. All right.
All right.
We'll all right. Thank you, George. Thanks for hosting.
All right. No problem.
Okay.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Sydney.
Good night, Mr. Burke.
Yeah.